Let me take you on a short foodie's walk through the city of Brussels. There are top restaurants and ordinary snack bars, shops with expensive food and night shops with very cheap wine, sandwich shops and supermarkets, bio bakers and fries shops. This great variety is striking. There is an Asian supermarket, a Thai restaurant, a genuine pizzeria, a traditional French star restaurant, a Moroccan bakery, a Congolese bar, and a Spanish caterer, etc., etc. And there, Rue de Flandre, is a Brussels restaurant that serves organ meats. This rich diversity is anchored in Brussels and its history. I want to know how and when all these foreign cuisines and eating habits came about. But I want to avoid clichés. An example of a cliché is that Italians started restaurants in Brussels after 1950 who didn't want to work in the Limburg or Walloon coal mines. This is wrong. There were Italian restaurants before 1914 and their owners had nothing to do with work in the mines. Cities and regions have always had foreign influences. Often, after a while, that foreign element is forgotten. What could be more Belgian than mussels and chips? However, those mussels come from the Netherlands and those potatoes from European soil, but initially from South America. When they arrived in Europe, potatoes were viewed with a crooked eye. They may have been good for un-Catholic savages, the so-called Indians, but not for devout Europeans. Pigs and poor people did get potatoes. But around 1850, everyone ate potatoes, even the King of Belgium. Why that is a different story. Foreign food culture, and I'm talking about the ingredients, the methods of preparation and the way of serving, the sauces, with whom, where, when and how people eat. So the foreign food culture arises because people, products and ideas circulate. People from Brussels go on holiday to Spain, for example, and they bring back memories. Read about Spanish dishes in magazines and newspapers. Go to Spanish restaurants in Schaarbeek and cook authentically at home from some cookbook. They import paella or spaghetti, couscous, pilaf, souvlaki, bigos and you name it, and integrate these dishes into their food culture. But the most direct influence on the local food culture comes from migrants. More than language, religion or ethnicity, food is preserved when migrants settle somewhere. For instance, the second generation of Italians in New York quickly forgot the language and see religion mainly as theater, but they do cherish the food from home, della casa, as very valuable. Roughly speaking, Brussels has four waves of migration that each time bring different nationalities and therefore different food cultures to the city. Let me briefly address these four waves. The first wave is difficult to place in time because it's lasts quite long. It starts somewhere around 1790, the end of the 18th century. French, Germans, Dutch and British live in Brussels. The city is small, but it is growing. Above all, it becomes important because it is a financial, political, economic and cultural center. Belgium and Brussels attract industrialists who often become rich and demonstrate this by building fancy houses, traveling to posh places, buying art and eating out. The latter they do in restaurants and at home. In both cases they eat according to the French fashion, which has strict rules and which is perfectly imitated in Brussels. A Brussels menu then is a perfect copy of a Parisian menu. French cuisine dominates wealthy people's cuisines around the world, but it also influences the meals of the petite bourgeoisie. A Belgian cookbook from 1861 bears traces of this. Caterer Philippe Cordelier writes that book, and according to him, it's the first genuine Belgian cookbook. And of course, it contains Brussels, Flemish, and Walloon dishes, but it refers even more to French preparations and place names. More Belgian cookbooks with many French influences are published later. De bouchée à la reine, or in Flemish, Koningin is a real Flemish classic, but it is as French as Bourvil or Charles de Gaulle. But also the British and Germans influenced the Brussels food culture. The Germans do so with their new type of beer, lager, which became very popular because it's foamy and cool. The British with pudding and pastries. Not all migrants from the Netherlands, France, Germany and England were rich, of course. There were also unskilled and skilled workmen, for instance cook from France, artists, musicians, adventurers and more often political refugees. To name well-to-known names, Karl Marx in 1845 and Alexandre Dumas in 1851 arrive in Brussels. They eat more simply, in inns or at home, but also bring traditions from their country. When in Brussels, the French do not eat coarse white bread, but opt for the more expensive white bread. The Dutch, Germans, French and British migrate to Belgium until today, and the first wave is still underway. The second wave starts in the 1880s. It brings Italians, Swiss, North Americans and other nationalities to Brussels and Belgium. Until 1914, these people could settle here without any restriction. But after the war, the border largely closed. 6 major world exhibitions attracted millions of people before 1914. These people came to work, have fun and eat. Italians and Swiss in particular arrived in Brussels. They opened stores and sell pasta, wines, olives and even eggs that come daily from Milan. They work as a cook or a waiter in cafes, hotels and restaurants. They sell warm chestnuts in the winter and ice cream in the summer. They open Italian café restaurants, and a good example is the Sirio near the Brussels Stock Exchange. That is still open, by the way. The First World War changes everything, and Eastern Europeans arrive quickly in Belgium. Many of them are Jewish. They open shops and restaurants that conform to strict dietary laws. The third wave is that of the organized recruitment of miners in the 1920s. Contracts are signed with Italy and Poland, coal in exchange for labor. After the Second World War and many more international contracts, Americans, Turks, Greeks, Portuguese and Eastern Europeans arrive. They all bring their food culture. The return journey home from vacation means the import of spices, vegetables, meat, cans and drinks. Spanish, Greek, Polish, Bulgarian and Turkish shops and bars gradually appear on the streets. They sell foreign but also domestic products as migrants adapt to the Belgian food culture. French fries are a good example of this. They are the favorite food of many sons and daughters of Moroccan and Turkish migrants. The fourth wave dates back to the 1970s. It is mainly the result of political and economic migration and brings people here from all over the world. People from China, Chile or Congo migrate along with their food culture. They often have friendly societies and organize meetings where they always cook lavishly. Markets are an explosion of colors, smells and flavors. Brussels, like most European cities by now, offers world cuisine every day. There have always been migrants. They enrich a city, a region, and a country. And they do that in many, many ways. Cooking, eating, and talking about food may be the best enjoyable way to get to know people. We and the other have become empty concepts. There is only one we, which fortunately is very, very varied. Of course, no one needs to like or appreciate every single food or dish, but everybody has the great luxury to choose. Who could oppose to that?